Welcome everyone to another episode of Decoding AI Futures, the podcast where we explore how artificial intelligence is shaping our world and how we as builders, professionals, and learners can shape it back. Today's episode is going to be a big one. We are diving into one of the most critical conversations in the tech right now. How do we protect ourselves, our platform, and our society against the risk of generative AI? And today we have a very special guest joining us, someone who knows this space deeply. Bobbi Stattelman, a globally accomplished technology leader with experience leading innovation across financial services, AI, and digital transformation. She has built and scaled products and that millions use, and today she leads impact driven work at Falcons.AI, one of the most widely adopted Gen AI platforms in the world. Bobbi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mohammed. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and we are really honored to have you here. So, the first question, because we all are talking about generative AI, everyone is talking about this. It's a magical thing that is there, but it is also very unpredictable. From hallucinated facts to deep fakes, we are seeing real risk emerge. So, Bobby, what are some of these specific risks posed by this Gen AI technology that you are seeing, and that you think technologists like us, creators and communities, need to be aware right now?
Yeah, so with anything great comes risks, obviously. So from some of the things you mentioned, hallucinations and deep fakes, down to, people being reliant, becoming overly reliant on this type of data, but also general human nature, people using it in ways that it's not intended, which we see with a lot of technology as it comes out. So creating things that it's not intended to create. So one of the things that at Falcons that we're seeing a lot is explicit imagery created with these generative AI models, and we're working hard to combat that along with deep fakes as well. Obviously, these can cause a huge amount of problems. I think the financial services industry in particular is really grappling with deep fakes of people impersonating company leadership to try and trick employees or other key stakeholders to release funds. And there have been several cases globally of this happening at even some of the largest financial institutions. So this is a huge risk, being able to, I guess even just, from a human perspective, being a bit suspicious now, even when you do see someone's face and hear their voice. But also from a technology perspective is now we have this great technology that is doing this cool thing, but how do we also use technology to help guard against these types of things? And then, from the perspective of people using, image generative technology to create kind of explicit imagery and also deep fakes of people that we know. We're seeing a lot of legislation come through globally to start to address that, but legislation is also quite slow. So it's, thinking about more along, also from a technology perspective, how do you protect your model from generating this type of content? And that can go, what we're seeing now is in a couple different layers. So generally, there's some protection on the prompt when users are prompting the models to look for keywords and phrases and block certain types of prompts. But we're even seeing users that are able to get around that and still sometimes use them to create explicit imagery. So on the back end of that, it's good to have a model like a explicit image detection that checks what the image generator actually creates. to also have another layer of protection to keep it from outputting that explicit imagery that you maybe probably didn't design the model for.
This is a very important topic that you were talking about, and a lot of people are not aware of these things. So, thank you for bringing it out there. As you mentioned, every technology innovation, there is a dark side, and an educated guess or something that person should always take care while building their products are something very important. And now coming to Falcons.ai, we have seen over 700 million model downloads. That's really amazing. What's driving this traction, Bobby? Why do you think so many developers and companies are choosing this model that is in Falcons.ai? Can you tell more about this?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have seen amazing traction with our not safe for work or NSFW image detection model. And the simple reason that we're seeing this adoption is generative AI. Um, because as I mentioned, humans are going to have their dark side of human nature. And where with the image generator models, we've just seen an explosion of not safe for work content be unleashed onto the digital world. Which has really just kind of left this huge need for a solution that helps detect that and identify it so it can be dealt with. So a lot of different developers and different organizations are using the model. So like in the instance of what I talked about as a layer on top of an image generator to keep it from generating explicit imagery, like Black Forest Labs Flux models have our NSFW detection model layered in. Additionally, you have, content, traditional content moderation companies are trying to take some of the burden off of human moderators and use AI models like ours to help, have the AI give a first pass to look at this type of content and take some of the burden off of human moderators to be able to go forward. But even people who are running, say, an online marketplace to sell products, you have to be careful about the products that you let people upload onto your platform, because if they're uploading explicit imagery, that reflects poorly on your organization and could do, big time brand damage for you, and potentially put off, other customers. So you want to put those protections in place to ensure that doesn't get in. But even from an internal, kind of perspective within an organization, many countries around the world have specific laws around duty of care for their employees to ensure a safe and comfortable workplace environment. So if you have one employee who's maybe looking at or putting imagery within the company, infrastructure that can be quite upsetting or considered harassing to other employees, many organizations can be held legally and financially liable for that. So using this as a layer to protect your employees as well from the internal perspective. So there are many different uses, but I think, as I mentioned, it all comes back down to just the explosion of content that we've seen with the rise of generative AI.
One follow-up question I had while you were answering this is, what are you seeing when you're getting feedbacks? Who are who are using these specific applications more? These specific models, NSFW models more? Is it the developers who are building products, or is it the generative models that are also before generation, making sure that it is safer to display the image? So when you're doing some surveys or talking to customers or users, which are the most biggest segment of users who are finding it useful and deploying it in their work or in their products that they are building?
That's an interesting question, actually. I think from an overall number of users and people that are using it to build things, it's going to be developers building products. Like I mentioned, in a variety of different ways. But I think probably in terms of number of runs of the particular model, that'll be, leaning towards the generative AI models, just because every time they're creating an image, they want to run the model. But yeah, from an overall user perspective, I would say it's developers, and so we're ecstatic to be a part of the open source community and make that available for developers. And please, if you are using it, we'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback. We love working with the development community.
And just one more follow-up question. You keep regularly updating these models. There are versions that are there because, as you see, there are a lot of things that are coming up. So, is this like a refresh? Is it a quarterly refresh or a regular refresh?
At the moment, we're not updating on a regular schedule. However, when we do get feedback and we notice that there is an issue or there's things that it's not catching, or we find something strange contextually that the model is doing, then we may make an update. For instance, I think we found at one point that anything to do with women's shoes, it would flag as explicit. So that was a little bit of a surprise, because it's not necessarily within, the majority of definitions of that. So the team went to work to, work on that issue and make sure that the model is behaving appropriately as expected.
Yes. This question is actually also part of this. You decided this early on about NSFW detection, and this is something that your team built the number one NSFW detection model globally. Why did Falcons.AI prioritize this early, and what impact are you seeing in real world applications?
Yeah, so myself and the Falcons team, we're parents. And actually how this came about, we were at a birthday party for a friend of our son's, and the parents were standing around discussing, how all of the kids these days are on all of these online platforms, and it's pretty much unavoidable that they would be on an online platform at some point, and you can't necessarily supervise every second. Is very difficult to do. And unfortunately, some of these online platforms can be very predatory for kids, and anybody really, but especially for kids. So we thought, what can we do with our skills and, our gifts in the world? And so we went back and put our heads together, and the team created this NSFW detection model to put out on the open source to, as an effort to make, put something out there to be available and to make an, impact in this area. And, I think, and I'm very honored that it has taken off in the way that it has, and that we have been able to help so many people with it.
That's nice. That's very great thing. You try to solve your problems, and then that really helps and cascades for the wider community. And also now you are launching version 2 of that model. What does this next generation represents in the terms of enterprise readiness and industry impact? Are we finally getting to a point where AI can responsibly operate in the open systems?
Yeah, so with version 2, some of the major strides that we're making with our version 2 is the team has completely architected our own our own model, so it's not fine-tuned. It would be completely foundational for us, but they've managed to get the size of the model down to under 4 megabytes. which is a huge reduction if you're ever out and looking at the general size of most models. And additionally, it's running at about 10x less power per inference than a traditional vision transformer model. So what this really allows is that the model is so small and so power efficient that it can just be put directly. It doesn't need a big GPU server to be hosted on to run, as most models do today. So it can actually be run directly on a device, whether that's a computer, laptop, phone. It can run on a CCTV camera, a drone, anything with image capability. So that really opens up a whole new avenue of processing that wasn't available before. And so if you think about what that means, so if you're hosting on a GPU server, really the only way to access that model is either you have your own GPU server internal to your organization and you run it from there, or you're calling an API externally to an API provider of that type of model. So as you can imagine, with many organizations, sending your data externally to a third party for analysis can be quite a concern for data privacy, as well as data sovereignty, with all of the rules and regulations coming up with that. So the ability to shrink the model down to run on the device without a GPU server on existing infrastructure really gives organizations control without, data privacy or data sovereignty concerns, that they can just integrate easily into existing infrastructure, and now they can take advantage of this type of technology in a way that was not possible before.
Thanks a lot for this. It's very good to see on edge these models running and doing their work. You have outlined the risk clearly, but also the safeguards. And from a technology perspective, what can we actually do to guard against harms of this generative AI technologies that we were discussing? What role do things like human in the loop systems, better training data, and policy play here?
Yeah, so I think, there's a few things, definitely. So one of the things I would say is probably adversarial training. Especially, this is especially important. I think it's important in any types of AI development, but especially when it comes to vision models, is to learn about types of adversarial attacks and train your model specifically on those. That way, at the end product, it will safeguard it from people using adversarial images in order to bypass the model. Additionally, there are for like deepfakes and things, there are some companies, FalconsAI included, that are coming out with models that can detect, do kind of forensic analysis on image data to help you identify deepfakes. So down to, is the shadow of this matching the shadow of this part of the image, among a wide variety of other things that I won't get into. And then, so there are, obviously a variety of the things. And as far as, human in the loop, I think the complex reasoning, of course, AI models are real smart, but the really complex reasoning still belongs to human beings. So when you're developing a model, it's important to think about what you can do from anti-weaponization. So that's one thing at Falcons that we do almost, for anything that we create, is try to think of how could this be weaponized, and what can we do at the beginning up front to protect against that. Obviously users will always surprise you, and there are going to be things that, come up later that you wouldn't have imagined, but just the exercise of going through that when you're building will help you kind of start to see things from that perspective and think about things that you can do while building to help safeguard what you put out into the world.
Yes, this is very important. So I would like to ask you to give your final thoughts because these topics are really people are not giving importance to these topics about protection. Everyone wants to implement generative AI without thinking about the risks and also one message that you want to give. A lot of listeners in our community are developers or who are looking to learn these technologies. Most of them are scared of these advancements. They are not sure what they will do, how their jobs are going to be in the future. So, while you are giving your conclusions, any message to the developers or people who are looking into get into this field and contribute, any message to them?
Um, yeah, I would just reiterate the importance of you know, not only building cool stuff, but thinking about how to safeguard those things. And as long as we're building technology, we're also going to need safeguards. So that's never going to go away. And think about it from, the perspective of how this would impact you or your family, your mom, your kids, your cousins, nieces, nephews, everybody in your community. And that kind of really puts a human feel on it. So it may seem, necessarily kind of like an advanced concept, but it's not necessarily so. So I would just say take the time to learn, you have your kind of core development principles, but also take some time to learn about some of these safety concepts. And I think you'll be a much more robust developer, because of that. But at the end of the day, all of this technology, AI, but technology in general, it's a tool to, hopefully help improve our lives. So I wouldn't be scared that it's going to take your job or anything like that. It's just a tool. So, maybe some jobs will go away and others will be created. It's always a balance anytime we have technological advancements. Um, but you know, and then as far as for like the open source community, I would say just get out there and create, put it out there, see what people do with it, tell your friends. Because I think also the open source community is really interesting because we get more robust solutions out of it because even with Falcons AI we get a lot of feedback and that allows us to say, oh, we didn't see that, oh, we didn't think about that, then let's make an adjustment. So that's one thing that is great about the open source and developer community in general is go build something, let other people play with it and give you feedback, and that makes the technology better and everybody wins.
Yes. And as Bobby mentioned, everyone who's listening, go and try out NSFW. You can reach out to the team for any feedbacks of how you are using it, how you want it to improve. And they are open to feedbacks and getting this type of to helping him better build a better in the future updates. Thanks a lot, Bobby, for your time and your thoughtful and empowering discussion. You are helping build not just AI products, but an ecosystem of trust and accountability. Thanks a lot for your time and thank you all the listeners to listen to us. All the details will be mentioned in the description. Thank you and have a great day.